Our album reviews: Kid Cudi, Man on the Moon 3, The Chosen. Man on the Moon 3 is the final project in Kid Cudi's Man on the Moon trilogy. This project comes a full 10 years after the second installment, Man on the Moon 2, The Legend of Mr. Rager. This album's been long awaited by many, and due to the other tracks that he's released this year with Travis Scott and Eminem, as well as Kids See Ghosts, he's been getting quite a bit of attention. This album comes in at a total runtime of 58 minutes with 18 tracks. So it's a bit longer than most, but I think that's okay for this project. It's been so long awaited that most people are just happy to have it. This album is also split up into 4 different acts covering different parts and themes, starting with the first act, Return to Madness. Return to Madness starts with the intro, Beautiful Trip. And this is pretty much just an instrumental intro without too much going on with it, other than getting the listeners excited for the rest of the project. It definitely does so because it interpolates the intro from the first Man on the Moon, In My Dreams. The first song proper on the album is Tequila Shots. The song starts off with a bit of a recollection and reference to Cudi's previous projects, from Speeding Bullet to Heaven to Passion, Pain, and Demon Slaying to Encutted, and of course Man on the Moon 1. The rest of the song has Cudi talking about his previous struggles in life, internally and externally, which is more seen in the chorus than anywhere else. There's a war within him that he's trying to deal with, and eventually fights in that war himself, rather than just being a bystander. The Return to Madness continues with the track Another Day, in which Cudi relapses to the old days where he could just party to numb the pain. It's just another day in his life though, but he's also glad he's made it to another day. This song itself is pretty straightforward in that sense, but the juxtaposition of banger mixed with kinda depressing lyrics is really what makes the song for me, and it does a really good job of carrying on that theme of this act. We get a similar feeling beat with She Knows This, which again carries on the idea of the Return to Madness. The song itself is about some of his party adventures. I just don't really care for the song though because of what feels like blank space when the chorus comes in. However, I do like the bit of a beat switch that we get later on in the track where it makes it feel like we're in space, which really adds to the trippiness of this track. The final track in Act 1 is Dive. Here we see the conclusion of Cudi's partying with the uncomfortable ending of the night. You know, when it's time to go home, but you're over there just being bold and don't want it to end. It's a pretty apt end to the first act because we're getting to the end of the madness here, where you start to sober up and really think about what's going on in your life. Those moments just before you pass out for the night, before you wake up with a throbbing headache, can provide some much needed clarity for many. This then leads us into Act 2, The Rager and the Menace, with the track Damaged. The track itself feels like a bit of a fever dream with how quick Cudi raps and how the beat almost feels like it keeps building up. I think the chorus does a decent job of explaining how he feels with him saying, "This is how it goes when you're a damaged man," which has the verses making a bit more sense because he's going through all these things in his life and in his own head. He's damaged in a way that doesn't allow him to really trust people around him, or, it just makes him the way that he is. Act 2 continues on with the track Heaven on Earth. This track actually does a really good job of sounding like it fits in this act because of the chorus and the almost triplet rhyme scheme or rhyme pattern that Cudi has at times here. The chorus is really reminiscent of Travis Scott, which, it makes sense because it's like they've influenced each other over the years. We also see a bit more aggression than you'd expect from Cudi here, almost as if he's had enough or something, which I feel adds to both the menace and the rager in the aspect of this act. Continuing the experimental sounds, Show Out is very much a drill song featuring Skepta and Pop Smoke. I think the song's alright. It's just not what I would expect to be on this project at all. But like I said, it's still alright. I really did enjoy the chorus whenever Cudi came in with Pop Smoke though. Act 2 wraps up with the track Solo Dolo Part 3. This track was immediately my favorite song upon first listen. This carries on Cudi's tradition of being very open about his mental health struggles, and I think it's really relatable for many. The first verse starts off with, "Say I'm waiting to die, I cry. Many nights I spent getting fucked up, living a lie. Praying I'm just fed up, this tequila in me. Don't tell me to be cool, this is as cool I can be." Whoa. which is a sentiment that I feel I'm not alone in relating to. Drowning yourself in distractions to help take the pain away is a pretty common coping mechanism for depression. Act 3, Heart of Rose Gold, begins with the track Sad People. This whole act feels like it's Cudi's acknowledging what's going on in his head and is attempting to find ways to find some sort of peace. This track does a good job of expressing that idea by straight up saying, "Something's wrong with me, I know." And the chorus saying, "Yeah baby, see I'm back in my zone," which is a callback to Cudi's Zone, where he says he feels better or alright when he's in his zone. Elsie's Baby Boy is a really nice song dedicated to Cudi's mother. It's definitely an interesting inclusion based on the flow of the album, because it kind of makes you stumble a little bit. But in terms of connecting it to this act, it makes a lot of sense. His mother is someone who he clearly holds very dear, so that adds to the Heart of Rose Gold. This heartfelt feeling continues on with September 16th, which is coincidentally the birthday of Cudi's girlfriend, Raquel Darien. The whole track is just full of his love for her, and it's nice to hear Cudi like this. The track itself is pretty straightforward and really just compares her to a drug that he just can't get enough of. The Void shifts things a little bit by readdressing mental health. The chorus right away lets you know that he's ready to fall into the void to avoid the things that bring him down. This might sound a bit weird because the void is often thought of as this negative space where there's just nothing happening and there's no one there. But I get where he's coming from. He's going into this void to keep himself safe. It's kind of like when you're having a bad day and you just want to be left alone. So instead of harming him, this loneliness and solitude really allows him to, heal, but also to push himself creatively. Act 3 wraps up with Lovin' Me featuring Phoebe Bridgers. This track is a pretty appropriate ending to this act because it's all about self-love. Most people tend to hide what's going on within themselves, especially when it comes to mental health. However, once you start to acknowledge it and find self-love, things might get better. It's never that easy, but it can be a helpful step forward, for sure. Act 4, Powers, begins with the track The Pale Moonlight. The idea that I got from this act is that Cudi is finding his powers. With this track, he's letting you know that people only see what he allows them to see. He controls the plot, as he says in the chorus. This track really just feels like he's trying to portray this fun-having Cudi with subtle hints at what's really going on with him. Rockstar Knights is a bit of a more braggadocious track, tapping into the power that Cudi has in this act. The track touches on the rockstar life. There's a lot of fun to be had there, but there's also a level of sadness when you begin to realize that you're not immortal and this sort of lifestyle isn't going to last forever and could potentially lead you to an early death. Cudi mentions life is about survival and no, you cannot fold, bruh, which is a sentiment that he's really carried on through the entirety of this project. It's interesting here because he keeps the same tone and cadence with the song, like with all this braggadociousness, while saying something important like that. For the Kids is a song dedicated to his fans who are like him and have to deal with things like mental health issues. The song serves as a way for Cudi to tell them that everything will be fine, eventually. There are tough times, but he wants them to be able to find peace and then get better. Obviously, it's not as easy as, oh, I guess I'll be happy now, because that's just not how things work. But it's a nice sentiment and could potentially help people that are in a negative space. The final track on this album is Lord I Know. The song is in the same vein as Pursuit of Happiness and Reborn, in the sense that Cudi is on this path to happiness and he's content with the way things are going now. It's almost like a prayer song where he's talking to some sort of higher power, where he's acknowledging his place in the world as being the warrior for himself, as well as others like him that struggle with mental health. Overall, this album was pretty good. I think the thing that stood out most to me was the overall sound and vibe of this album. Like, it just felt like a Cudi album. There weren't really many points at which I felt there was something that he was trying to do that was out of the ordinary or something that just straight up didn't work. But, some people are going to bring up the fact that there's a lot of what sounds like Travis Scott influence on this project, and that's fine. We have to remember that Cudi really brought about this sort of sound originally, and Travis is pretty much influenced by Cudi as well. There's definitely parts of the album that I personally did not care for as much as others, but I understand their inclusion, and I know others would like those particular songs. My favorite tracks on this album are Solo Dolo 3, Damaged, Sad People, Tequila Shots, and Dive. I think this project did a really good job of continuing on the Man on the Moon series, and I just hope whatever comes next will at least match this in terms of quality. But hopefully it'll come sooner than later. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this album and what your favorite tracks are. Also remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more content and reviews like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.